trying to help you.
Okay,
You are not
the way that you can help me right now,
by declining answers, by doing all this.
the way that you can help me is by disconnecting our service. That's how you can help me.
How is that helping you, though?
Welcome to the Forum Thread Podcast, episode 67. I am your host, Chaos Mana. With me today is Lozelda.
Hello, everybody.
Zach.
Howdy. Unless we fucking lost him again. God damn it.
Zach Potter, the invisible wizard.
Oh, well, you didn't say anything.
I'm here.
And,
I said howdy.
Did not, you noodle. Okay. And Terry.
Hi, guys.
We're also joined by the magical invisible John. He is sitting here in the chat and asked for a random shout out, so there we go.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
So, Zach, are you ready to get start us off with the whatever tech support call?
Most certainly. So, I'm not sure if everyone's heard this yet, or it's old news, but a guy recently recorded his phone call, and when he tried to cancel his cable with Comcast, and that's usually always a headache, but at this point in time, it seems like he got even, he bit off more he can chew, so to speak. And honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and come from the rep side. I'm sure you guys are customers of terrible corporations, but I used to be, a stormtrooper for the Verizon Wireless Empire. Yeah, so I know what it's like to be on that end of the call and your boss being extremely angry at you for losing a customer, for losing 3 or 4 customers a week.
Are you saying this is what you just so happen to do?
No, it's not. It's for example, I wouldn't lose too many customers, but in all corporations, when it comes to both telephony and companies like or phone companies and cable companies, it's all about keeping your customers, because every loss is crab up someone's ass that you now have to deal with, thanks to your boss.
As well as less business for everyone.
Precisely. But more importantly, it's about a 30 to 40 minute conversation that you have with a boss that you may or may not enjoy. I did not enjoy mine. And they would consistently rant on how terrible an agent you are, and how not how you can improve per se, but how you shouldn't have done this. You should have transferred to tech. You should have offered this or that, even though I already offered this or that, because the calls are recorded for quality assurance and
assurance, bragging rights. Is there this? Do they actually keep this master log of every call that's ever been said?
Yeah, every call center has like 10 or so servers they keep on site that stores all the calls for months at a time, and your coach can pull up a random call, listen to it, and then from that can either give you some tips and tricks on how to be better or berate you. And I didn't get too many beratings, but anytime I was berated, it was when we lost a customer. So I understand that agent's desire to keep the customer, even though I feel like he was being slightly condescending in his tone, because I can tell, because that's how I spoke to my customers. And I can
Thank you for your honesty.
I can also tell that he's just trying to keep the customer on the phone for a few minutes before he gets off break or lunch or whatever. That's just my trained ear for 10 months of training and talking to people and all that other fun stuff. But I want to hear your guys' opinions. What's going on?
Well, what was specific about this call? Was there anything special about it? How it was recorded? It was just condescending in general.
The guy that was
go ahead.
Yeah, the agent was just like asking the same question over and over and over again.
Hey everybody,
He would not give up.
it's Ghost Sweetman, by the way. We have Sweetman who's joined us, so hi Sweetman.
I was trying to go stand unnoticed.
No. I don't want to fuck up whoever's editing the audio and stuff.
Fusion.
So I'm pointing out you are here right now. This is your formal introduction. All right, you can go back to talking now.
Yeah, no worries. But the agent was just like, yeah, but like, why are you canceling with us? And he's like, because I just want to cancel with you. Yeah, but like, why? Like, what is it?
But why?
Just
let me into your mind. Let me try to feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
You didn't give him anything.
Yeah, it's really a tough position. I see it as a gray area because I don't know. It's two things. One, it's just him doing his job in all earnest. It really is him doing his job, no matter like how the consumer sees it. But at the same time, there's a point where every agent knows that you're just gonna lose one, and that happens. But there are incentives like bonuses for keeping customers and having them join up in certain programs and stuff like that. So there is also a side to that where it's like he may want to keep his bonus so he can afford paying rent. So like that's what a lot of consumers don't understand. It's like, oh, I need this. I calculated this bonus into my paycheck and my bills for the last 6 months. So if I don't get this bonus, I won't be able to pay my bills.
So, wait, if you lose, is it like if you lose like 5 customers or something, then you don't get a bonus?
Every company does it differently, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about this, and I don't give a fuck.
Don't say what you work. Just don't say who you worked for.
Yeah, I'm not. Whatever, they know.
No, he worked for insert company here.
Yeah, well, most companies have a scoring system based on surveys and your stats, how long you're on the phone, how many calls you take per day, and even how many in some call centers will even calculate how many customers you lose a week or a month or what have you. So that you could be doing great in all of your stats, but that's the stats that weighed the most. So it's the heaviest penalty. So that way it incentivizes agents and basically forces agents, if they want a bonus, they can't lose customers.
Well, what I was just going to say is that it seems a little unfair because if it was your plan anyway, like I'm just going to cancel, so I'm going to call up and ask how to cancel, would have nothing to do with the individual person that's talking to your call.
The guys seem to be trying to like steer him towards like going into a store and canceling there instead of doing it over the phone.
That
might have had something to do with it.
That's what we're trained to do.
Yeah, when I was working at a call center, I just did tech support, like that was it. And our sort of, I guess, bonus system was the shifts. Every 3 months, I think it was, there was like basically a shift lottery. And so if you had like better stats or whatever, then you were
get the better
put
shifts
higher on the list, and you could pick which shifts you wanted. And but that was almost purely based on time on calls, and like you were supposed to have an average below whatever, which like to me was next to impossible because
you mean shorter calls?
Yeah,
like in tech support, you want short.
That's how it is in customer service as well.
It seems like the opposite because it's like, well, let me do this, transfer you to this, let me keep you in a waiting time 5 hours.
But speaking of good call center people, my ISP is amazing.
Yeah.
I had a billing discrepancy a couple weeks back, and just because I had some like credit card info that didn't get changed over in time, so I called them, and I was on hold for a little bit, but they got this little message that runs every 15-20 seconds, and it says like, at any point during this recording you can press 0 and it'll transfer you to a message machine and you can leave a message. So I was on the phone like waiting for like 5 minutes, so I was like, whatever, I'll leave a message. So I did, and just explained the situation, and then like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I called back again, and I got somebody right away, so I sorted it out. And then later on that evening, I got a call back from them anyways. It was like, hey, we got this message on our thing from you. What's going on? And I was like, oh yeah, no worries. I already cleared it up. And they're like, oh, okay, perfect. Is there anything we can help you with now? Blah, blah, blah. And like, I've had nothing but like good things to say about these guys. And anybody around here that is like looking for it, because they're a little third-party ISP. So.
Oh, bummer.
Like,
well, for me anyway, because I would have loved to. It sounds
and
gravy.
it's in Canada, so.
Oh.
But it is like probably the best like tech support experience I've ever had. Like everybody I talked to, I mean, I came from that background a little bit. I did it a little, so like I know the basics of like what to have when you're going there. It's like when you're looking for a car, like, sure, you can just walk in and be like, hey, I need a car. It's like, well, what are you looking for? I'm like, I don't know, something with 4 wheels. Like, yeah, sure, that's a good place to start, but like,
Are you sure
if
you
have
need
a little bit more
4
information-
wheels?
Exactly. So like, you're like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, can you help me? So it's obviously a little bit easier if you walk in with like, hey, okay, so I'm looking for this and this and whatever. So.
Yeah.
The more annoying part is when it comes to tech support with, I'm not exactly a technological genius. I think I said something similar to this before. So I only call after I'm sure that I can't figure out the problem or I don't want to spend 5 more hours on it. And then every time I call, they're like leading me through the most basic stuff. And then when it gets to the advanced stuff, when trying to fix my internet my old internet used to be horrible. Each time it was a completely different solution. One was to completely replace the box. It was like the cable was wrong. Something else was wrong. And it's never the same thing.
Well, and it's like that's where it comes in handy when you go in and you say, okay, I've already done this and this and this and this, because it takes a whole bunch of the guesswork out, because like you basically just have a checkbox, like a flow chart.
Yeah.
Like, do this and do that, and then like if it doesn't work at that point, then we'd either send you off to third line or to the OEM. So because like there's only so much you can do as like first line tech support, right? So
Yeah, or customer service. Basically, it's a flow chart. Does this work? No. Does this work? No. Does this work? No. Oh, tech, here we come. And then tech will do the same exact thing, except for they won't ask you the questions that customer service asks you. Does this work? Yes. Okay. Have you done this yet? No. Okay, do this. Oh, does it work now? Yes. Great. And if not, then off to tech 3, and so on and so on. It sucks. It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
I don't quite remember if Ray said this, but one calling in situation that we had it was obviously a new person, and we called and we were about to speak, and they were like, okay, let me put you on hold, and then it just cut out, and then so we called again, and then let me put you on hold, and nope, it hung up again. And the third time we were like, we had a problem. You hung up on it twice. No, I didn't. We like trying to explain that, and they were very clear and adamant that they had nothing to do with the problem.
I think I remember, didn't Ray post a journal about that? Where they're like, no, I just put, she was like, you got to keep hanging up on us. She's like, no, I put you on hold. And I think I made the joke, really? Your hold music sounds like a dial tone? That's weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was the worst. Like, I cold transfer people all the time. Like,
Yep.
if I had to send them somewhere, because like your call times matter, and when I'm on hold waiting for somebody else to pick up so that I can transfer, like do a warm transfer, say, hey, this is the person, this is their problem, blah blah blah. I'm going to send them over to you now. You have to wait on hold for them to pick up that whole time. So while the customer is on hold, you're also on hold, and it's like beyond frustrating. So I do that for like 2 minutes and be like, whatever, transfer.
I was the worst. Like, I'd straight up hang up on people, call them back. If they were, like, really pissed off, they're just like, I'm really tired of my phone not working, and I'll hang up on them. I'll wait 30 seconds.
My phone's still not working. Wait, why did it ring again?
I think my favorite were the people who had a VoIP modem, and they were calling on their, like, voice over IP. It's like internet phone. Basically what we're using for Skype. But you can have like a home phone service that is voice over IP, so instead of plugging into your phone line, you're plugging into your internet line to talk. And so like the company I worked for in some places had like a VoIP modem that you would get your phone and your internet from the same box, and I could remotely reset it. But like you're supposed to ask people if you knew they had one of these modems. And be like, are you talking to me on your like main phone, or are we on something else? Because we're gonna have to reset this. And sometimes I wouldn't even tell them. I'd just do it anyways.
Yeah. Okay.
She's like, oh no, are you there? Are you there? Just to like fake it for in case they listen.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's some people are so stupid. It's like, okay, so we have to restart the phone, and then the line just hangs up. I'm like, what the fuck? I call them back, and they're like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you we're on the phone. We're troubleshooting. Awesome, because that detail wouldn't be needed before you fucking push the power button. God, fucking.
We need you to unplug the internet.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen the IT crowd?
Oh my god, I love that. I love the IT crowd.
Yes.
Did you see the one with like the box of the internet?
Yes.
Internet box.
Yeah, they basically convinced the like idiot chick in the office that like there's this box that is the internet because she has to give a speech to all the other department heads or whatever about something in her field, and so like the two guys do it as a joke, but everybody believes it, and like nobody laughed, and they're all like, this was supposed to be a lot funnier, but everybody believes it because they're all idiots.
Yeah. I like the automatic system the one guy sets up for the voicemail.
Yeah.
Like when the call activates, it's like, did you turn it off yet? Have you? Is
tried
it plugged
turning
in?
it off and on again?
Yeah, I love that. It's so true though. People call in and they're like, I did this and I did this. I'm like, have you powered off yet? No.
No.
Like, they get all offended. Offensed.
They get offended.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm offended, sir, that you're even saying
Damn
these
it.
things.
Well, I had a guy on the phone for like 40 minutes, and one of the first things you do, like, can you check your cables, make sure everything's plugged in properly? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. And then like 40 minutes later, every sign is pointing to his cables aren't in, and then I'm like, sir, can you just like check it again for me?
Sir,
Just
for
like
the love of God,
humor
please.
me. And he does. He goes, oh yeah, my cable was unplugged. The cat must have got back there. I'm like, oh.
That's the fourth call, so that brings your 3 to 5 minute average down to, or up to a 50 to 40 minute average, and now your boss is yelling at you. So I guess me and Sweetman come from the rep side, but have you? I'm sure maybe lozelda has had some interesting calls with some reps, maybe. Have you?
So I don't end up on the phone with reps a lot. My issue. So what? I have to take a deep breath before I get into this because I spent most of today dealing with really stupid ones.
Oh, goodness.
So what usually happens is, for brief history for anyone who doesn't know, I work for a medical device company. I work in regulatory affairs, and so what happens is when someone has a complaint about a device, about a medical device that can be used in a procedure, they send us a report that says this is what happened to it, and then I have to figure out what exactly went wrong, if it did hurt somebody, if it could hurt somebody, if it happened at a different time, all that kind of jazz or whatever. And this is all stuff required by the FDA. This is all information that we always ask for every single goddamn time. So you think at this point they would just offer that information, but they don't. So usually what happens is someone else takes the phone call that says this is what was wrong with the device, and I just see their transcription of it. So I'm getting it like third hand at this point, because usually I'm getting it from the person who took the call, who was talking to a hospital administrator who got the information from a doctor. So
does the story slowly change as it passes from person to person?
That's what I'm assuming, because sometimes I just get really dumb stuff, especially if it's from international. Oh my god. Anytime I see a complaint come in from France, I cry every time. France is the worst. France just has decided that we're asking questions to be a pain in the ass and not because we actually need the information. So they will literally send us something that just says, it's broken. That's all it says. And I don't know if that means like it doesn't turn on. It doesn't turn on, it doesn't turn off. Is it broken into pieces? Like what, like those are very important things. Like if it's broken to pieces, that's a problem because you don't want pieces of stuff.
7 people died. It's like causing havoc over the entire hospital. It's broken.
Yeah, like that's the kind of crap they do. So I hate France, and I love the people that come out.
hate France.
I love the people that come out of Australia. I'm great friends with a lot of them, but motherfucker, their doctors frighten me because I just keep getting like all these reports that pretty much just say that thing you told us specifically not to do. Yeah, we did it, and now our stuff doesn't work. Like,
Well, have you seen the kind of things that Australians have to put up with all the time?
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Doctors
I would
probably
think.
have a lot
Yeah,
of
I would
advice.
think that would make their doctors be like super doctors because they have to deal with all of this stuff on a daily basis.
Yeah,
And they have to like try some things that maybe they're not supposed to.
yeah, you would think so. I've gotten reports from Australia. At least they're honest when they screw up. Like I literally had one that came in that said, it was working off and on, so I hit it with a hammer, and now it doesn't work at all. Like that's literally what I got.
So I was doing a course, like this was years ago when I first started in the military, and we were going over like our radio systems, right? And they come with all these retarded attachments and like different headsets and handsets and stuff. And so we have one that's like a phone, and the guy that was teaching it is like, yeah, so like you plug in the stuff like this and whatever, and somebody's like, hey, my handset doesn't work. It looks like a phone with a wire on the end of it. And he's like, okay, so he goes over, fiddles with it a little bit, and then he says, okay, so this is something that the SIGOPs, like the radio guys, don't want you to know about. And then he bangs it on the table like twice, and then clicks it, and it works again. So sometimes, like, hitting it or banging it with a
Yeah,
hammer
because there might be
will
something
actually fix
loose
it.
will work, but sensitive medical equipment, maybe not. And
Yeah.
I think this is just an undertone.
You
for
have a
social-
surgery where you haven't been put under yet, and then you just see your doctor look at his like device and go, "Bam, bam, bam." Okay.
Yeah, that would scare the crap out of me.
Yeah. Well,
Literally, I'd poop myself.
funny story. Did you know that for spinal surgeries, they don't put you under?
Or heart surgery.
Oh my god, no, you're joking.
No, my mom had a stent put in her heart,
a stent?
and she saw it.
Oh,
They have a monitor there. They have
fuck.
like a monitor that the doctor
that.
watches, and she saw her own heart beating.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Are-
No.
Are you?
Oh.
Is there a reason for that? Is it they just didn't want to pay extra, or could you
No.
request to be put under?
No, this was in
such a case?
Canada. Like if they
Oh, it
need
was
to
in
put you
Canada,
under, it's
okay.
not even a question. But so like they don't put you under because something about like you need to be cognizant so they can monitor your like
No, that doesn't sound right for
well-being
heart
or something.
surgery.
I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
For people, certain
To
people,
make
wouldn't
sure you
that
don't
like
die.
freak them out to the point where their heart would start
Yes.
accelerating?
Well, you don't feel anything.
That doesn't mean you're not
Like,
going to
I
freak
guess-
out looking at
Yeah,
it.
I wouldn't be
I
afraid of the
understand
pain.
that.
I'd be sure because I mean they're ripping you open. If you don't want that, you screaming like a maniac. They're gonna have like everything numbed
They'll
out.
probably
So
have
I'm-
some numbing done.
I'm
and
pretty
maybe
sure
it's-
it's some kind of like out of body experience. You know, like you're seeing it, but you're like, nah, I don't believe it. At least
Yeah,
that's how.
your mind's a funny thing. It'll do whatever it can to protect you from traumatic
Well,
events.
some people's
Plus
mind
with
might,
shock
but
and
other
adrenaline.
people's might just
Mine would have a
explode because of seeing
Fucking
this.
shit fit.
Yeah, you still don't want to see something they're going to put inside you. That's just, no.
Yeah. Like I have the kind of problem where I hate sharp objects and needles to the point where the one time I had an IV, I had to keep my arm covered with a blanket so I couldn't see it because as soon as I looked at it, I threw up. Like I'm like, so I do not want to be awake
Okay.
for fucking surgery. That's not going to be good for anyone involved.
I've only had one injury like that, where like my brother stabbed me just below the knee with a pool skimmer, not the net
Oh.
side, but the
I was just stabbed right below the knee.
They-
If
the
he
big
stabbed you
side,
with the
right?
net side, I'd actually be really impressed. Just 'cause
same here.
that's got to be really difficult.
I can imagine
was
you're
able
just
to
trying
see-
to hack at Zach with the entire thing.
Hold on a minute, I'm gonna make it. Oh man.
Yeah, but I could see the ligaments and muscles moving when I moved my foot and my toes.
Aww.
But I was also in shock, so I
God.
couldn't quite feel much. I could walk on it just fine, but that was something I was going to regret later, and just for the fact that adrenaline, man, is it powerful stuff.
Yeah, I cut open my wrist one time, and I could like see all the fat cells and muscles and stuff in my
Yeah.
It was weird.
You're just like, it was just weird. You know, that
Well,
thing
no,
that
'cause-
happens.
it kind of happened. It was on glass, right? So I didn't feel a thing. It was
Yeah.
such a like clean cut. I just looked at it and everything was white, and I was like, "Oh shoot!" I like grabbed my arm. Just,
Oh,
put
dang
pressure on
it. It happened
I-
again.
it's like- well, my buddy
What
had
was
like
that
we
accent?
put gauze and hockey tape on it to
Nice.
like keep pressure, right? Because I didn't know
Specific accent.
that it wasn't on my artery. I thought I was gonna die or something, but turns out I missed it and I barely bled at all. So
That's awesome. I'm
kudos
glad
for first aid skills from like a 14-year-old.
Yeah. I just told my brother to go get my mom and to calm down and stop crying.
Oh, wait. So why did he stab you?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go back to that.
I was underwater flipping him off, and apparently he didn't like that too much, so he tried stabbing me with the net side, and that wouldn't get me because I was dodging it like a ninja. And then
Oh, okay. So it was a play combat situation.
yeah, it was a play combat situation that escalated
He just
quickly.
got you really good.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember the moment when I came back from the hospital and he was carrying all of his like gaming consoles, like his GameCube and his Wii, his like Xbox 360. Like he was holding everything in his hands, all the games, and he was still teary-eyed. He's just like, "Take it. I know I'm grounded." That's just so, yeah, and I would make him do things for me. I'm like, oh man, I really wish I could get a glass of water, but my knee kind of hurts.
Oh, Zach.
How long did you make that work?
A good month, and now it's not worth a damn. It's not worth a single
just
damn.
shout it. My knee. My fucking knee.
Did you
Does it ever?
did you used to be an adventurer?
Yeah, I used to.
That was really bad. I'm sorry.
I did
Stick to the knee.
a metal pipe to the knee.
Have you guys ever seen
No.
Game Theorist?
Yes,
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that show.
There's a really good one about like the arrow to the knee thing, and they go back to like back in the day of medieval times and stuff. Like an arrow to the knee would really would probably kill you unless like this and this and that happened. And then like this whole arrow to the knee thing was a big conspiracy by like doctors who were going around shooting people in the knee.
Yeah, Viking doctors, because Vikings sucked at medicine, and they charged extra for each bone
Bone
fragment
chips.
removed.
Yeah.
So if they could remove a whole patella or knee, it wasn't that big of a deal. But if you could remove like 6 or 7 pieces, that's like a house, So in Viking,
You see, you put the patient under, and then you get a hammer, just so you can have more
You would
pieces.
you would be surprised how many surgeries actually involve hammers.
yeah, quite.
Oh yeah,
It's-
I had
Kind of terrifying.
a tooth removed, and it was when I was a kid. I was like maybe 10 or 11, but I had like a baby tooth that didn't have an adult tooth underneath it, so it never fell out, and it became impacted and it fused to my jawbone.
Oh God.
So I went to get it taken out, and I didn't know, it just like kind of hurt, and so they put the freezing in. And I was just kind of laying there with my eyes closed, and Buddy was tinkering around in my mouth. And I can like feel pressure, and the guy was like on top of me, and I could hear a cracking noise.
Wait. I'm gonna stop you right for a minute there, because you're talking about some guys tinkering around in your mouth, and he's on top of you, and I'm just taking that to an entirely different place.
He was a trained professional medical
Yeah,
specialist
and
of
he
the
had,
Dentist
like-
Variety Gen. Lozelda. Keep your mind out of the gutter.
What you call me?
Oh,
Shit. My cover's been blown. I gotta peace out now.
Oh my god,
It's been fun, guys. Bye.
you won't be missed.
Hey, welcome to the podcast, Low Link.
Yeah.
One of these
But he
days,
had,
I'm
like-
gonna convince him to be a part of this.
But anyways, he had like pliers and stuff, and that's like afterwards. I just heard like the cracking and stuff from my jawbone. And I asked him about it. I was like, "Yeah, what was that cracking noise?" He's like, "Oh, I had to break it off your jawbone." I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. Here,
honestly,
want the piece?
Brute force.
Oh.
It was just brute force. Like that's all it was breaking this tooth off.
That's
of my
why I
jaw.
hate the dentists, because sometimes they'll just lie to you and they'll just completely lie to you. I'm like, what's that burning smell? It's nothing. It's
nothing.
What's that
Nurse.
bright, dusty smell I'm
pretty honest.
smelling?
It wasn't as that wasn't as bad as when I broke my leg though, because I had to get X-rays, and my it was the bottom of my fibula was broken, and so I go in to get X-rays, and the woman who's like operating it is like, I need you to turn your foot, and I'm like, okay, so I turn my foot, and she's like, more than that, and I'm trying to turn it, and she just comes over and like slams my foot down. I'm like, I'm in a lot of pain right now, and it turns out it was busted, so she's just like wrenching around on my leg when it's busted up.
Oh, I thought she was trying to set it, like she was just trying to trick you into setting it.
She was just trying to see if it was broken.
I want to just test it here.
Like there's better ways to determine
she
that.
just needed
The
a
curtain
better
cracked.
picture of it. She just needed a better picture of it, I guess.
These are people that go to school for these kinds of things.
Well, and the thing is, like, I could have turned over a little bit so that my leg would move, like, but she didn't care. She was just like, whatever, just do this. It was like 10 o'clock on a Sunday.
You're not convincing me of Canadian medicine at all, Sweetman. You're just
No, see, they can
There's
do
all
all
story
these.
in
They
the
can
mat.
just
No,
they
thank
no,
you.
they can do all these harmful procedures and then just apologize after, and then the patients are fine.
The doctor that I dealt with was super awesome, though. He was just like, came in, I told him what happened, and he's like, all right, let's take a look at it. So he like pulls my shoe off and pulls my sock down, and at this point my ankle was like ballooned, and I was like, holy shit. And he kind of looks up at me concerned. I'm like, oh yeah, it wasn't this big before. He's like, oh okay. And he like leaves for a little bit and pokes his head around the corner. He's like, hey man, you want some like Tylenol or something? And I was like, do I? So he comes back a minute later with these like heavy duty
Vicodin in
Tylenol
that
things,
Tylenol.
well, we have these Tylenol 3s that's like Tylenol and codeine that they give them out like Tic Tacs. They're
Fun
pretty
times.
sick.
The opiates are fun, but don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, drugs are bad.
Drugs are
Unless
really
they're
bad.
prescribed by a doctor.
And
Okay.
even then, they're bad if you abuse them. But
Yeah,
if you're
This
in major
message
pain,
brought
like
to you by Zach.
as prescribed by your doctor.
the more you know.
Don't steal drugs from your parents' medicine cabinet.
Yeah, that too.
Apparently, that's a big thing these days.
Yeah, that's a huge thing.
There's like radio commercials for it all the time.
Oh yeah, it's stupid. I'm like, my parents have really, because my dad he ruptured a disc, so in a car crash, so they had to shave some bone off his spine, and so he is in constant pain, so he has to be issued some heavy stuff, and my mom has rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, so. Yeah, so she's also with some heavy stuff, and they've always told me, like, if one of these pills will kill someone. And I'm like, I get that. You guys are in lots of pain sometimes, so let's not, that kind of stuff, I'm okay with opiates, I guess, but I just don't support opiates medicinally because just how heavily it affects your body and how accustomed your body becomes to the opiate.
Yeah. My uncle had back problems, and he had like morphine, but they prescribed him morphine, but he never took it. He just grew his own pot and smoked that all the time instead.
Yeah, and that's THC in even liquid form or pill form can be greatly way better than some opiates. I mean, and there won't be any body withdrawals either. But you can't go from opiates to THC, yeah, because you're stuck on them.
You know why heroin is called heroin?
Not a clue.
It was developed in the early 1900s by Bayer, the friendly people who brought you aspirin, who were trying to make something to replace morphine because it was like so addictive and harmful.
Yeah, but
and
it broke down.
Yeah, obviously it didn't work, but at first they thought it did, and they called it heroin because that's the German word for hero.
Yeah.
Or heroic or something because of its heroic effect on the body.
Dun dun dun
So
dun.
it's like, so awesome.
As in the female hero.
Well,
But
in English. But.
In English, yeah. In German, it's just hero in general. But yeah. What's funny is I actually watched a documentary and did a lot of research. It actually just breaks down and heroin breaks down and turns itself into morphine because it's a more complicated morphine. Basically, is that's what heroin is. It's fucking stupid.
Well, they're all like opium at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it all breaks down into an opiate, and then eventually, I believe it breaks down to sugar. Everything breaks down into sugar, or right, Zelda?
Yes. I kind of zoned out for a minute. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's why I did
I got
that.
I got a lot on my plate. My brain's not really just doing the whole staying on
Good
track
news.
thing.
Yeah,
There's
I feel
fireworks going on outside my house.
Oh, yay, fireworks.
Why is there
Yeah,
fireworks
it happens
going
every-
on?
There's a fort like right across the
Like a
way from
box
where
fort?
I live. Yeah.
Or like a couch fort.
No, like a
There's a
fort
couch
with
fort, a
cannons and
giant
stuff.
couch fort of
Hey,
Canada.
I don't know, man.
There's,
That
like,
would be so
cannons
awesome.
and stuff. No, there's like cannons and stuff there.
Oh, like
And
a-
I want a
every
couch fort with
Wednesday-
cannons. Do you know how badass that would
Oh
be?
man! So I just heard. I was driving home today, and I heard the craziest story. It's so awesome. There's
Okay.
this guy in England. He's got like some YouTube channel. He's like a plumber and an inventor or something. And so what he wants to do, he made this big machine with like a jet pulse engine, and built this big thing that looks like a butt. And he's gonna put it on the like the cliffs of Dover in England, and face it at France and fart on France.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so
Freaking
sick, right?
So there's going to be an inventor in France that's going to make it even bigger, but it's just become a fart war.
Oh, I
And then
hope
we're
so.
gonna have the first World War, like the World War fart scenario
It was-
here.
Like, they were doing an interview with him on the radio, and he was like, they're like, what do you have against France? He's like, oh, no, I like France. But, you know, if Norway was closer, then we'd be farting on them, but they're not, so...
So it's all
maybe,
notification.
maybe I can send him a message from lozelda and be like, dedicate this one to her for all the shitty medical reports they send her.
Like, is that a cultural thing? Like, why would they? Maybe it's because you're American, lozelda. Like, they don't like us Americans, so they're
Well,
trying to just
how
give you
many
shit
different
and
how
hard
many
time.
different countries are you dealing with actually?
In theory, I could deal with up to 38. I personally, the products that I have, the product families that I have, I am mostly the U.S., France, Germany, Japan, South Africa, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and I'm missing somebody. There's another one on that list. No, I actually don't have anything from Canada.
Because we don't complain.
Yeah. You guys are too nice to complain.
We're like, it's not working very well, but...
They have a stack of complaint letters, just blank complaint letters, just sitting there. They go to fill it out and they just can't do it.
They're
They
just
can't
like,
bring
It hasn't
themselves
been
to
bad
actually
enough
fill
for
it
us
out.
to send
they're
it.
like, it was probably my fault. I really shouldn't. It's okay. Yeah. I have no idea. So Canada,
We'll just fix it on our own, guys.
Yeah.
My favorite, like, political threat is, like, I will write a strongly worded letter and send it to you at some point.
Eventually, if I can get around to it.
Oh, Canadians are really apathetic. Like, I've noticed that more and more recently. Like, they just don't give a shit about anything.
Oh, you just don't care about anything versus
No.
actually caring about everything.
Oh, yeah. They're just like,
What if
fuck
name
it.
name a right, Sweetman, that Canadians hold dear to their heart, and your government outlaws that maybe someone might say something about.
What?
Like,
I don't know
is
what
there
you're talking
something
about.
that, like, for example, let's like. The government's like, you know what, you guys, we do everything for you already. Let's go ahead and make it so that you can't express yourself, freedom of speech, all that other fun stuff. Would Canadians then be outraged? Or, like, how
Okay,
apathetic
so-
are we talking about? Like, how
so
far will it come before you
it's-
no longer have rights and you're just sheeple?
The things that, like, people... The most ridiculous things happen. I saw there was a protest out west for, like, the war in Afghanistan, and they were getting, like, the people protesting were, like, being big douchebags, and so it was, like, starting to get, like, pretty dicey, and, like, there was, I don't want to say threats of violence, but, like, it was getting to the point where violence could easily break out, and so they had the military, like, protecting this protest of the military.
Interesting.
Like,
So-
it's so retarded.
You got? Is it like everyone cares about their soldiers and don't understand why these people are protesting, or is it the fact that these people are protesting because that Canadians shouldn't be involved in the war?
At that point, I think it was the war. Like, so we have. I think I've talked about this before, but it's called the Highway of Heroes, which is a stretch of highway from the base in Trenton, where like they would fly all the dead soldiers to, and then they drive them from there to downtown Toronto to the coroner's office, and then from there they get flown out to wherever their funeral's going to be. But when they had repatriation ceremonies, every overpass on that route was covered with people, and they were all wearing red. Everybody's waving flags. People would pull over to the side when the convoy was passing and stuff. Like, it was crazy, like insane. Like, I went down that route one day, a couple hours before the repatriation ceremony, and it was already like people were building up on the overpasses and stuff. Like, it's insane. But most of those people were there to support the soldiers, not the war, because they were just like the States is a 100% volunteer military. Like, nobody's forced to be there. Everybody knew what they were getting themselves into, but a lot of people didn't agree with us being there. And I think for me, a lot of that was kind of tainted by the Iraq War, because that's something that like got caught in a lot of people's craws. And like, most people here don't really know the difference between Afghanistan and Iraq, and there were two wars, and like everybody thought we were there, but like Canadians never went to Iraq. Which, like, you know, say what you will about it, like, my opinion doesn't really matter, but, like, Afghanistan, I think we did it for the right reasons, for the most part, and, like, I could talk for days about that whole thing, but regardless, a lot of people disagreed with us being there, but they believed in, like, Canadian soldiers, and that, like,
that's cool.
We did, you know, we were doing what we believed in, and so they wanted to support that, even if they didn't support the war. They'd be, you know, outspoken against our involvement there, but
what were the
they'd never stop
protesters being a douchebag about then? Like,
I think it was just the way they were going about it.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I can't remember the specifics of it. It was a really long time ago, but
too much of a good thing kind of deal, or?
Oh yeah, like out west, like in BC, British Columbia, they're like huge hippies.
Okay.
Like, oh yeah, big time. Like, Washington State, basically, like, it's their hat. They're all the same. Hippie, like, snowboarders and pot smokers and stuff. Like, I love it. I'd love to go hang out there, but not in the cards right now, so.
I feel you. It's just crazy to think that so much can change. And a lot of these recent wars or quote-unquote police actions are UN sanctions.
Yeah.
So it's not even like we declared war or you guys declared war on Afghanistan or Iraq, if I'm not mistaken. There's a heavy involvement with the UN.
So
where they make the decisions.
Yeah, neither of them were UN. The war in Iraq, the UN actually said that, like, you can't go there.
Yeah.
The UN said you won't do it. And the United States were like, well, F you, we're doing it anyways. With Afghanistan, it was like, okay, we can see the reason behind it, whatever, if you want to go. And so, Afghanistan was NATO, Iraq was US. It was like a US-led coalition.
Yeah, not too fond of Iraq.
Yeah, I guess, like, back to your initial, like, question. If you go back a few years to, like, when the NHL had a big lockout and there was, like, no hockey season, people were, like, super pissed about that. But after, like,
no hockey piss.
Yeah. After, like, 2 months, everyone's like, whatever, I'll watch basketball or something else. Like, and then they just, like, didn't care anymore. So I guess that's probably, like, the best representation. Because hockey is, like, the one thing that every Canadian can agree on. Like, even if you're not a big hockey fan, like, when Canada makes it to the gold medal game in the Olympics, like, everybody's watching that.
Definitely. That was like with soccer for us. We didn't give a fuck about the World Cup until we got it. We were able to beat whoever.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. But yeah, I thought we didn't we beat like 2 people and then Germany just fucking face wrecked us.
Yeah, they got into the round of 16 against Germany, but it's the furthest that the U.S. has ever gotten. And the last 2 tournaments they were in, they were taken out by Ghana both times. So they beat Ghana in the group stage, which was like a huge victory.
That's awesome.
And then I think they beat somebody else. I think it was in the quarterfinals that U.S. went out. I'm not 100% sure though. But yeah, same kind of thing. Like everybody was into it, right? Even people that don't even know like what a fullback is.
Precisely. I was into it, and I didn't even know who we were fighting. I'm like, yay, go us! We did something.
Oh,
But I don't know.
Zach.
Yeah, I'm a
You
noodle.
just start cheering whenever you heard news.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
it's so frustrating. Like I'm a big soccer fan. That's like my sport, right? And so when World Cup comes around, like for me, I really like it. I'll watch a bunch of games, but I'm not like, oh yeah, World Cup every day, let's go. Because I watch soccer all the time. And so, like, sure, it is a big forum and stuff, and a lot of people want to watch it, so, like, it's nice to have people to go watch sports with. But there's, like, so much complaining about it, because World Cup is a completely different style of soccer than, like, anything else you'll see. This year, I think, was a little better.
It
There
was
wasn't as
really
much
intense. It was funny when I was actually moving over here from. I think I said something like this before. When I was moving over here from England, I was moving basically during another. I think it was the last World Cup. I could be wrong, but it was everywhere. Like in the TVs, it was insane how much I could just kind of walk around and just see in random TVs. We were like going on vacation, going to kind of old, ruins or whatever, castles, and on the way there we just saw like it on the billboards and walk past pubs, and it would obviously be playing.
Yeah, it's big. Like, John Oliver did this big bit.
Oh, I love him. He's
Right
awesome.
at the start. Yeah, and he was talking about how, like, soccer is like a religion to a lot of people. Like, his whole bit was about how FIFA is, like, super corrupt and, like, probably the worst run organization in the world. But he was like, but at the end of the day, I'm so excited for the World Cup because it's like, it's kind of like the Catholic Church, right? Like, there's a lot of people who, like, they know that it's super messed up and, like, really shitty and, like, terribly run. But, like, they're going to keep going back to it every week,
Speaking about John Oliver, I absolutely love his new show that he's doing. It's every Sunday on HBO, where it's him talking about, like, political issues and stuff like that, and then adding a whole shit ton of, like, humor to it. Like some issues like the U.S. involvement in Uganda's caused major anti-gay issues, and he talked to a
like
person.
They were better off before.
The prison issues we have, the industrial complex, all kinds of cool shit.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
good. Like, it's like kind of like Daily Show style satire, but the truth.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think he perfectly combines education with comedy. Like, I hate those kinds of shows. I hate Conan. I hate fucking Letterman. I hate all of them. Like, I shouldn't say I hate them. I just don't understand.
That's different though.
Well, I can understand not like it does seem like a lot of those ones are structured in a very odd way. Some of it almost seems forced. It's very hard to describe it, but because of that, that's one reason why I like Craig Ferguson, because he seems to be the only one that like totally breaks the mold, loves going against like what the other producers and guys are saying, like actively arguing with them during the show, and all around cool. he you can tell he just doesn't care, and he just likes to joke around to make fun.
Well, he used to be like a huge cokehead.
Exactly.
Like, he just doesn't care anymore, man.
Yeah, Robin
He's
Williams
awesome.
used to be a cokehead too.
Tim Allen's used to be a coke dealer.
Crazy. Lozelda, you know any cokeheads?
Probably.
Sadly, yeah. Sadly.
I know some people, man. I just
Yeah.
I know some real winners. So probably somewhere in there is a cokehead, but
Yeah.
you know. I don't.
Such
I
is life.
can't even think of anything witty to say to that.
It's just the truth.
It's just the truth, and it's just sad.
It's the
Like,
sad cold truth.
it's
Yeah.
just how it goes.
It's life.
Yeah.
Full of wonder and amazement, but all at the same
And
time
cokeheads.
filled with dark, dirty truths like cokeheads.
Yep.
All right. So we are. Well, we did start late, but we're basically at the hour mark. So I wanted to take this part of this time of the podcast for Zelda. You had the big journal about it. I wanted you to, help explain to us what exactly the situation is, or at least how much you know of what's going on.
So, just because this is going to be a part of my life for a while, so it's probably going to come up on the podcast, so I just kind of want to run through everything so no one's like, what? What is this? So,
Get rid of it.
so there's been journals about it, but essentially right after coming back from RTX, I was diagnosed with cancer, which is, super fun. Especially when you're 27 and you show up at the cancer center and everyone out there is like 70 and they're like, are you in the right place? And I'm like, yeah, shut up, leave me alone. So, that was fun. But anyway, so I was diagnosed with the cancer. My original doctor said it was stage 1. So we were trying to figure out what our plans were for that. It is a reproductive cancer, so that kind of adds the extra element of like, oh, what if I want to have kids and blah, blah, blah. So we've been trying to weigh all that. I had my first meeting with the oncologist this morning. She actually gave me a slightly better version of the news. It's still cancer, and that still sucks, but it is more on the side of like, before you were saying it was stage 1, possibly going into stage 2. She is thinking it's more on stage 1, bordering on the line of precancerous, going the other way. So it's still there. It's still bad. It still needs to be dealt with, but it is not as bad as we feared it might have been. So, we're not playing around with it. We're jumping right in, and I go in for a surgery in just 2 weeks. And we would have done it next week if it was possible, but there just wasn't a time slot for it.
No scheduling.
Yeah, so we're not fucking around with it, but it's not quite as terrible as we were afraid it was going to be. So hopefully the current plan is we're going to try to just carve out one giant chunk. But because of the way they're doing it, it should not impact things like potential kid stuff I might want to do in the future. But should give them enough to comfortably get what we know is in there.
Like,
probably
a good way to, I guess, study it and then see what's going to happen.
So the way it works, whenever anybody takes anything out that's cancer related, they check it for margins. Essentially, is what they'll call it. They're looking for clear margins. So what they're doing is any chunk they take out, they check the entire outer part of whatever they removed, and they're checking for cancer on that. If they can't see anything, then you can assume everything is contained, and because you're like, it pretty much, it's like, think of it like a ball. We know on the front side of the ball there's stuff, so if on the back side it's clear, that means we carved out the entire perimeter of it. So they're looking for those clear margins to say, yes, we got all of it, and if they hit anything on the outside, then we say, we cut through the middle of something, that means there's still something in there that we have to go back for. So, right now, they're convinced that we can do this not quite as extreme version of chopping things out. They'll check it for margins.
We're just going to chop things out. Goodness.
Well, it was,
they're probably going to do a biopsy, right?
Right.
They're just going to take a small itty bitty piece, or have they already done that?
No. So that's why that's all. The words are so hard. That's why all of this is happening, is because we took a biopsy, and confirmed there was a cancer there. So, without getting too in depth, they thought we were getting a weird test result, so they looked at it all under a microscope. They couldn't see anything. But this is the third time the test has come back like this, so they're like, there's something going on here. So they just started taking biopsies willy-nilly from random places. I'm sure it wasn't completely willy-nilly, but she's like, there's nothing to look at, so I'm just going to take some from places. And we just happened to hit a couple tumors, so we know something's in there. And we know the locations of the ones we hit, but we also don't know what else might be there that we didn't hit, since everything looks okay. So that's why they're just going to take out one big chunk all around where we know there was stuff, and hope that everything is still as superficial as those are. And that will hopefully do that. So they'll take out this one big chunk. They will take, they'll take biopsies from the chunk they take out, but it's going to be a more extreme version. They're going to essentially make the surface look as much like a sponge as they can. They're going to take as much material as they can and check all of it to make sure that the entire inner part that was cut out is clear.
It's good that they're being thorough.
Yeah, so it's one of those ones that this is a slow growing kind of version,
and it's
so
good that you caught it as early as you did. Is it
right.
Wait? How did they happen to catch it? Was it just time for an appointment and you discovered something weird?
Yeah, it was like it's any lady friends know kind of what I'm talking about. I don't want to get too much into it, but there's a test you go and do every year or every 3 years, depending on your age and medical history and whatever. And it was just time for my yearly thing. And it came back abnormal, and they're like, well, that's weird. So we should take a look at it. So they go in with a microscope, which is super uncomfortable because I already told you it's a reproductive thing. So, they get all up in your business with a flashlight and a microscope. It's really, you have to be really friendly with somebody to be okay with them doing that. And, yes. So they went in and they looked at it, and there's certain things, they're looking for things that, it looks a lot like skin cancer. They're looking for the same kind of abnormalities. And everything looked fine and hunky-dory. She was like, sometimes the test just comes back, positive for no reason. Like, it's just female bodies are weird and fucked up like that. Mm-hmm. So she's like, we'll check it again in 6 months to make sure. And so I went back for my 6 months thing, and it still came back bad. They're like, all right, what the fuck? So we went in, and she did a second look with the microscope, and that's when she was just like, there's something that's triggering this test. We just need to make sure that it's not a cancer. And so she just took, I think, about 5 biopsies from around the area and happened to hit with all 5 of them. So whatever it is that I had is not completely on the surface like they normally are, which is why they couldn't see anything. It was in the deeper layers, but the deeper layers don't go, I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this. They're in deeper tissue layers, but they're still very easily removable. So without causing too much trauma to the surrounding areas. So they're just going to cut that entire section out so that way they get to those deeper layers, but without causing a structural integrity issue. So that way, my insides don't collapse or anything. So I know it's really exciting, right?
Yeah.
At least you're not my poor husband. He was trying to figure out what was going on because it's not like he, has gone all up in my business with a microscope and a flashlight. So I'm trying to describe to him what it looked like, and I ruined certain food groups for him forever because all I could do was point at certain foods. I'm like, so think of it like this, and he's like, well, I'm never eating that again. Awesome, thank you very much for that. But yeah, so
should open up some other imaginatory things for you though.
So I think, oh look, Audrey's in the chat. Hi, Audrey.
Howdy.
So yeah, so it's obviously cancer is never fantastic news, but as far as bad news goes, this is probably one of the best versions of it I could possibly have.
Mm-hmm. Like bad news light.
Yeah, so the procedure we're going to do, it's still surgery. They're still going to have to knock me out, and it's going to take an hour, but it's an outpatient thing. I'm going to go in, we're going to do it, and as soon as I wake up and can prove that I can keep things down, they're going to give me some water, and if I don't throw up, they're like, you can go home. So it's, I won't be able to pick up anything heavier than the dog for a month.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, so because they have to do stitches all up in my inside. So it's not like, stitches on your arm or something where you can see them. It's like if you pop a stitch on your inside.
Now that I know how it feels to a much lesser extent, having stitches and not being able to do anything.
Yeah, so the plan is in 2 weeks I'm going to go in for the surgery. They're going to take the chunk out, and then in 2 weeks after that, I go back and we check everything to make sure I'm healing okay and that there's not anything else that they can see that needs to be looked at. And at that point, they'll also have the results from the chunk they took out to see if my margins were clear. And if they're clear, then we're having a fucking party and everyone is invited.
Awesome. I'll try to afford a trip to Michigan then.
Yep, there you go.
I think I looked at it before. It's like a 10-hour drive or something. I was like, where is that? Basically, all my vacations are going to somewhere that I know somebody already and just hanging out with them for a few days.
Nice.
It really saves on hotels, and I'm super cheap like that. So.
Yep. So that went on
or
longer
not
than
to hang out with not to hang out with these friends, but just to.
No. I mean, okay, I also like it because you get more of the local experience.
Okay.
That you wouldn't get if you just like
Good excuse.
touristed somewhere. And I go on a lot of trips by myself. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's nice to like meet somebody there. Like I went to Georgia last summer because a buddy of mine lives down there, and we just like played golf for 2 days, and then went to Atlanta and watched baseball, and it was awesome. And like, if I'd gone by myself, like I probably couldn't go play golf because then you gotta like worry about jumping into somebody else's game because you can't golf by yourself and all this other BS. But so yeah, it was really fun, and like it's Georgia, so they got great golf there. That's where they hold the Masters and everything. So not that I'm a huge golf dude.
All right. I guess to sort of wrap up here, the last question I sort of dropped out at the last second. So you'll have the surgery in 2 weeks, and then how long do you think it would take to get any positive or negative news from that?
So the plan is I go in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that I go back in for them to check things and give me the margin results. As long as the margins are clear, then I will just be on a 6-month rotation of them keeping track of my insides that are currently still inside me, and making sure those are all still good. And if that's clear, I think for a solid 2 years at 6-month intervals, then I can go back to doing it yearly. And if it's not clear, then we bump things up a notch and start taking an axe to this. But my doctor she's very convinced that with all the different factors involved, that we're looking at like a 5% chance of having to go to a further step.
Yeah.
So that's really good odds. So I like that. So we're hoping that everything comes out with this one. But yeah, so approximately a month from now, I should have something that's more definite. But 2 weeks from now, surgery. 2 weeks after that, the word on what the margins are. So
definitely hoping for the best of luck.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have like
definitely.
Archer-style cancer party.
Yeah.
Damn,
I don't know.
You should.
That looked pretty intense. I would actually totally be cool with that.
Yeah,
except for the like recurring phone calls.
Except for that,
Bullshit.
let's not have that. I kind of forgot about the
Everything else
part. Yeah, everything else. I'd also like to not have to like go up some secret cartel that's like smuggling chemo drugs and things like that. But
yeah, that's crazy.
One step at a time. If I have to, I will fucking cut a bitch. All right, no problems with that.
Well, you're already on the inside though, so
exactly. So yeah, so I know that's like not exactly a fun thing to end on, but it's better news than anyone was expecting, and now you all know, so that way in 2 weeks when you're like, why is she talking about surgery? It's because I fucking told you already, and you should listen to the goddamn podcast.
Everyone in the chat, including like John, is still like, what's going on? I don't understand.
Fuck you guys. Go listen to, you come back and you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, listen to it on the YouTubes or the SoundClouds.
Yep.
YouTube, the forum thread, Twitter,
but if someone,
forum thread.
If someone said that you have 5% chance of losing the lottery, I would immediately go buy a scratch card.
I would buy 50 million fucking scratch cards.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'd buy a handful.
Fuck yeah.
Just because even at 5%, I'm like, it's still not a guarantee, so I'd get a couple, so that way that increases the overall percentage. I can't really, do that with my insides. I only have one bit of that, so, I mean,
very true.
I'm kind of limited, but I would if I could, man. If I could be like, let's just chop out, that chunk from all of my different lady bits. It does not work like that, unfortunately.
Kidney cancer or something.
God.
Whatever, I got to.
Exactly, yeah. Just pop the other one out. It's all good. So I keep making the jokes because that's how I deal with stuff is I make jokes, and I'm just like, hey, I'm like, while they're in there taking stuff out, I'm like, there's so many things that I wish I had money for. I'm like, I kind of want to just be like, while you're in there, chop out my kidney, let's sell that bitch. Because it's like, I don't need two, it's going to be fine.
Well, you like to drink, don't you?
I do like to drink, but as long as I leave my liver intact, it'll be fine.
No, your kidneys do stuff.
The kidneys do stuff too, but they're not as important as the liver for that. So
yeah, but if you only got one,
it'll be fine.
They're actively trying to convince you, don't do it, Jen. Don't.
Get rid of your pancreas. I'm just kidding. Don't do
this
that.
is your alcoholism talking. You still need both your kidneys.
Shut up.
This was actually an intervention. We wanted to just stop you from drinking so much.
Alright, I think it's time to end the podcast. Fuck you guys. I'm out. I don't have to put up with this.
Let me We should convince her to get her.
Yeah. So, everyone, thank you for joining us in the chat. And you can always look for us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, definitely on Rooster Teeth. And for all the news posts about our different podcasts and different Let's Plays, we may have an announcement about certain channel changes coming up in the near future. And with that, I shall say goodbye to all the lovelies out there.
And the uglies, too.
We all love you equally, kind of.